Welcome back to the Perfect Lap Podcast. I'm Mark Jager. This is Mark Kilgore. He goes by Kilgore. I go by Jager. And today we have the Dewey DeWitt, the driver of the Boogeyman WRX. I would say STI, but not quite STI because it's too old, right? Or something like that.
Technically a WRX. It was a 95 Impreza L we built it out of.
Oh yeah, that's right. It's just an Impreza L. Yeah, gotta get the Subaru stuff right from the start. Oh man. So basically, guys, we got Dewey on the show here. I think everybody understands and has heard Dewey at some point or another on another podcast. So we're gonna start it off like this, Dewey. So give a shout out to all the podcasts and all the things that you're usually a part of, so we can just knock that out from the very get-go of this thing.
Sweet. Well, I appreciate you guys having me on. So lately I've been doing a whole pile of podcasts. I started doing the IAG Thursday thing a couple years ago. We switched from kind of a live cast to a podcast format. It's worked out really well because most people were just digesting it driving home from work anyway. So we went audio only, and honestly, it's allowed us to do a lot of really cool things. So if you follow that, you've definitely heard me. And then we started a new one, what are we, like 4 or 5 months ago, called Heat Exchanger with my buddy Devin and the legend himself, James Houghton. And literally what that deals with is drama within grassroots motorsports. And that's been really good. It's been a lot of fun. We've had quite a few different names on, and I'm surprised at the impact we've made in a very short period of time with that. People hear something, we've had like Chris, Adam, Abe, and Mike, the new CEO of Grid Life. We even had him on. All have hit us up at multiple times going, hey, that's not quite right, are you? And that's how you know you're doing it right. We've like all over the community, they've hit us up with that one. So that one's been a lot of fun. And then I've been on all sorts of stuff. I time attack with Grid Life, so I'm always on their live stream and stuff like that. And then I've been at this for a while. So
well, let's dive right in. So I'm trying to remember when the last time I kind of heard the name Dewey, Mr. DeWitt himself. I'm trying to figure that out. So I'll let you tell the story. So how did you get your start, especially obviously as this is a time attack podcast? How'd you get your start in time attack? How did you kind of get your claws into it?
Sure. Well, in 2015, my tuner and I decided to steal my wife's car. I got invited to this track event is what I thought it was. The company I was working for was a sponsor at the time. I got invited to this track event. I fought it. I didn't want to go. But they talked me into it. And my tuner, Graham, was like, oh, we should go. It'll be a good time. I'll throw a real light tune on your wife's car, which is an 05 STI. And we'll go and have a good time, just rip laps and it'll be fun. So I'm like, screw it. We'll go and we'll do it. We went, and that was Grid Life Midwest in 2015. I didn't know what I was getting into.
Wow.
We got free tickets, so we were out there just doing HPD because there was an HPD part of it. But we had a riot, and at the time I was doing a bunch of drag racing, and I played a bunch of Forza and stuff like that. I'd been to a track day or two, but this was a different level. So we had a lot of fun with that. We both are like, why are we throwing our money into drag racing Subarus? This is so stupid. So we both decided to go to another event. This time we both brought our own cars, and we got a little more serious about it. And we were comparing our times, his car being more of a street modified, or what Global Time Attack would call street vehicle. And mine was closer to what we would call, it's called street now in Grid Life. And it's kind of like enthusiast class. Either way, we were comparing our times. We're like, man, we're not far off, and our cars are really not even prepped for this. And then we went to Road Atlanta, and then I realized I would have won street class, and I was like, okay, it's time. So next year we decided we're going full in on time attack, and that's when I started getting more serious about it. I quickly realized in street I was outgunned by quite a bit. Graham went on to win a championship. He caught everybody with their pants down because there was no rules in street modified for adding piles of horsepower. And he showed up with a gun to a knife fight and kind of ran away with it. And he was kind of the prototype for, at least in grid life, larger power street mod cars, which would be street class now.
What kind of horsepower was you running?
What's that?
What kind of horsepower was you running?
On kill, he'd run mid 600s. It was a Borg Warner 8374 at the time.
Gotcha.
So, it was a decent sized turbo, and he'd dial it back, run like mid 500s. But at that point, most street modified cars were like bolt on cars, and they were running, low 400s, if that. There was
a lot of power back then. I mean,
it
over
was
500 horsepower.
Were a little worse, and the cars just weren't as developed. People weren't reading the rule book the right way. Everybody knows when you read a time attack rule book, you read what the rules say 10 times, and then you read it 100 more times to see what it doesn't say, and then you do all of that. It's not SCCA; it's a completely different thing. So, he ended up running away with it. I was pissed off because I ended up like 5th place over the season. I'm like, this guy, I wanted this bad. Like, time attack is something I'd been following way back in the day in Sport Compact Car and Super Street. And I even went to a couple of Red Line events way back in the day. I took pictures with Tarzan when they brought the Cusco car over. Like that was like, that got me super stoked. And like, he didn't even know what was going on, this guy. Like, he wins a championship. So either way, I fight the fight in street, but realize that the rules just are not for a Subaru at that time. They made some changes, and honestly, the S209 changed everything as far as the rule set worked. But I wasn't willing to hang around for it, and I had already started cooking up a street mod car. I looked at Graham's build. I was working at 6-Star Motorsports at the time, and I'm like, look, I can do that better. I had already had my drag GC that I was like, I could convert that. And then I tripped on an absolutely cherry, dirt cheap, already caged GC shell that I'm like, I'm just going to buy that. That was Brandon Cocker's car. I don't know if you remember him. He did a bunch of GTA stuff.
Oh man. Yeah. That's an old name.
Brandon Cocker's chassis is Boogeyman.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yes. That is Boogeyman. I even left a couple stickers on them from his car just to like kind of play homage. It was fun. But I picked that car up, and then right around that time I found out I had a tumor in my head. So it was between it grows off my auditory nerve and was growing towards my brain, and we got the tumor out. I got through that, but it really kind of makes you rethink how you approach life. And at that point, I was like, nah, I'm going all in. Because if I can just get taken out by some tumor, I'm done planning for the future. The future is right now. And I went all in on throwing every ounce of resource that I had into getting Boogeyman up and running. We did it in like 3 months.
Wow. So that's like 16, 17?
That was 19.
19, okay.
We literally did not sleep. I just had, my son was just born. We just bought a new house, and we had all this stuff we were supposed to be doing. And I'm like, nah, race cars. This is what's up. The second I could walk again, got some balance back, we were immediately working on the car. And that's when we put together this GC that I kept telling everybody is going to ruin this class, because I'm building it to the bleeding edge of the rules. I didn't name that car. Another competitor named that car. He kept teasing me that like this car was never going to show up. It's the Boogeyman. That's where the name came from. I did not name it. All I did was lean into his name. So you can't name your own car. That's the rules.
Agreed. Just like you shouldn't be making your own nicknames and
No.
call signs and stuff like that. Like, it has to be earned, has to be given.
You cannot name your own car. Anybody who's out there is like, this is death incarnate. Like, you're a moron.
That's fair. I mean, I like that your car has a name. We don't see that a ton in time attack, but it's just fun, especially if you watch World Time Attack Challenge, right? Like you see Mighty Mouse, you see the RP968, and you know immediately what car that is. You may not even know who drives it, but you know that car. So I think it's cool that your car is one of the few that has a well-recognized name here in the U.S.
I think we should lean into that more, but I think people are going to be really quick to give their cars like super cheesy names, and there needs to be something behind it. You know what I mean? But just like you said, it's really easy for like like a branding perspective. Like my old O2 WRX, we used to all call it the Rooster, and it came from the old Alice in Chains song because it just wouldn't die. It went 282,000 miles of hellish abuse, 4 transmissions, but the engine was like, whatever. And that's where it got that name. You gotta like names have to be earned, you know.
Yes.
And there's
that's definitely something that has to be earned. Like, you know, I kind of had a good laugh a couple years ago. We ended up in Coda, and one of the guys there, dude, as soon as I saw him, I'm like, this dude's a freaking Viking.
Yes.
And then I looked at him and I looked at his name and I'm like, Sangard.
Nice.
Sangard the Viking? And I'm like, I know it's a little different, not naming a car, but immediately, and it's like it all fit, it all worked, and I love the fact that he changed his whole Instagram handle to Sangard the Viking now, and so it all just plays into it.
That's awesome.
And I'm like, dude, that's awesome, man. Like, yeah, run with it.
Yeah,
so
don't be afraid of it. You know, we had we even had a buddy. He got like mad. This is the other side of it. We had a guy who got mad because his car like never existed, and his name was Tom. So we called his car Phantom. And it like, dude, if you would have just go with it, okay? Phantom is kind of cool. Nope, got all mad about it.
That's funny. Well, on that note, though, I do feel like that one issue is that, and maybe it's just here, I don't know, maybe it's just with the organization which we run in, but so few people keep their car long enough to really have it grow in lore, right? You know, and kind of, I mean, Ferris has done that. You've done that. I mean, Jackie's Supra was really well known, but then because of his, you know, business model, he kind of had to move on from it. And okay, understandable, but you just don't see cars sticking around that long, which it is what it is. But
yeah, and you know, I think that's a shame. You know, some of it is you have to keep just being stubborn. So in 23, we ended up winning the championship, but that was up against cars with, you know, flappy paddle gearboxes and all sorts of stuff. We did it with 3 pedals, 4 struts, and a plywood splitter. So sometimes, you know, you just got to be obnoxiously stubborn and stick with it. But, you know, I'd be lying if I haven't like seriously took a stare at a C6 Corvette. Life would get way easier.
So I'm gonna jump off with that, right? So one thing that we've talked about numerous times on this show, right, is Supras and Corvettes, right? It seems like a Supra and Corvette show every time you watch a Time Attack nowadays. One of my biggest strifes is that I love to see the diversity of cars. I love to see all the different cars at these events. And so it pains me when we have this only these certain cars being able to compete and be competitive. So quick, like one shot take, right?
Sure.
What's your opinion? How do you see it? Where do you see some of our struggles in Time Attack and why we're not seeing a plethora of cars like we used to?
You might not like my answer, but the rules are going to have to slightly tweak. And Grid Life's actually done a fairly good job with it. You know, people kind of massaging the walls of the sandbox and getting away with stuff. And just this year, I made a argument because you could already put a DCT and an S2000 in our class. Our Grid Life Street mod varies a decent amount from GTA Street. Now you can have a car do both, but it has to be the right platform, like a Supra. But I argued successfully by saying, what I want to, if I put a sequential gear set inside of an OEM housing, okay, This is a gear set, so everything you have that says aftermarket sequential gearbox no longer applies. And they liked my argument, and then they're like, look, I got to be real, we were already looking at tweaking some things, and I went and did some research of other cars that can do that, like a Subaru. But long story short, they like seeing 90s shitboxes out there competing with modern cars. But to do that, you're going to have to make some concessions. And they allowed us this year to be able to put a sequential gear set in the car. So we just got that done. And
oh, really?
Yeah, Road Atlanta was my first outing with a sequential in the car ever. That was wild.
What'd you put in?
We went with Coutage, which is kind of like caps, and caps split, and basically Coutage went one way and X Shift went the other. X Shift basically got all the machines, and Coutage kind of got the design, and then they made their own updates, and that's what it is. Gotcha. They kind of made us, I'm not gonna lie, we got kind of a sweetheart deal with it. Graham and I both bought sets at the same time, and they were willing to sit down and have a conversation. And they also, the thing I really liked about them is they were willing to give us the exact box we wanted with the gearing we wanted. We kind of could pick from their catalog to get exactly the gearing we wanted. So yeah, that's what we ended up going with. And it's with the M-Tron and everything else that we're running in the car now, it's working out real well. But like I said, I've only got 3 sessions at Road Atlanta with it. So this is really new to me.
Yeah, it actually made the 3 sessions, is I watched your video, right, is impressive that you guys at least had that hooked up to where you were able to basically roll off the trailer and run with it without many issues.
Yeah, it wasn't much, some tuning stuff. We did a couple of street pulls. Past that, it was just send it. That car was so completely different when we showed up to Road Atlanta that the first 2 sessions were just us trying to figure out, what direction was up, because the car we made huge changes in the rear of the car. We had a whole new brake system in it. I had a whole new power steering system in it. We had a sequential in the car. Like, it was a shakedown.
What did you run in 2019? Was that with Boogie when you first... Did you run Road Atlanta?
That car was a disaster then.
Sure.
I think I ran, but tire technology has changed a lot. The car's sorted quite a bit.
Oh, for sure.
I was doing almost $1.70 down the straights in 2019, and I was 5 mile an hour slower here, and I went 3 seconds faster. So that'll give you kind of an idea of like where the power is coming from. But I only got like 2 sessions that weekend too, because we blew the thing up. It's just doing old school Subaru things instead of modern Subaru things.
What was your lap time there at Road Atlanta?
This time or last time?
Both. We'll go with both.
Okay, last time we went there, it was like 33 flat, and wasn't very proud of that at all. And this time I went there, still not proud of it, but ran like legitimately a 30 flat. We had a 28 showing, and then I'm not going to get into it, racer's excuse, whatever, but there was some traffic that probably shouldn't have been there, and it is what it is. We'll get them back next time.
It's at some point, if you're in time attack, you're going to have someone block you, be in your way. Like, it just is how it goes.
Time.
Yeah, it is how it goes. Although, Jaeger, to your point, and I just want to point this out, and again, this is just one event, but at Grid Live Road Atlanta, Street GT, Corvettes were first and second. Street Mod, Corvette first. Track Mod, Corvette first. Unlimited, Corvette first and second. Like, it's just...
Yeah. Also, they also won the award for the most obnoxious driver causing the most problems, too. It was, I'm telling you, man, they just full swept the field. They also won GLTC. So make sure you remember that one.
Yeah.
And people wonder why GTA had pushrod V8s excluded from the competition for so many years.
I think it's good. Still, I have no doubt in my mind that we can beat Ryan. I've done it before. I will do it again. But there's no denying that platform is incredible. It's just, small frontal area, giant engine, piles of racing heritage that you can draw upon. You can grab old parts from all sorts of different stuff. Hell, if you really want to, you can stick a NASCAR engine in that thing. You know, you really can lose your minds on it.
And that's the thing, right? Like, there's so many options, so many things that you can do to that car. There's ways to make it go fast, up the yin. I mean, it's just a matter of like throwing out, closing your eyes and throwing a dart at the dartboard, right? It's like, how do I want to make this car go fast? Do I want to go NA? Do I want to be supercharged? Do I want to be turboed? There's just every which way you can do it. The car can do it. The car can make a ton of horsepower and run around the track and do it over and over and over again. So I'll kind of hit on this for you, Dewey. So being a Subaru, being the limitations, having the limitations of the Subaru. So when you do compete against a guy with a Corvette, and I'm trying to remember now, how much power is your car roughly making right now?
So when we were at Road Atlanta, we didn't really check to see what the DA value was until after the third session, which was pretty stupid because we were a 5,000 foot swing. So we were down on power. So when we were there, we were probably making roughly 540. Okay. Normally we're going to be running around in the low 600 range. That's my low boost map. And the majority of the time I try not to turn it up, but if I need to, and we absolutely want to wring the thing's neck, we can make upper 700s. If we're going to twist the knob, we can do it. I have the advantage of working at IAG. I have some help. I've got Manley and JE sponsored me, so it helps for internals. I'm going to get some help. It's not for everybody, but I break shit so other people don't. That's really my job. So,
I mean, I definitely used the hell out of that JE sponsorship myself over the years. Yeah. Those guys were, I'm gonna help you out in a sense here. Like, those guys were so good to me. I will never forget that. Anytime I go to build an engine, I will call JE any day. Those guys were so awesome in all the support that they gave me throughout the years. And like and like you've done, in a Subaru, when you try to make a lot of power, it tends to blow things up and we tend to have to replace things.
It's getting better. Okay. Things that we've learned since a lot's happened in engine management, even since you were doing this, you know what I mean? A lot's happened in the last 5 years alone in just keeping a big power Subaru together. I mean, we're running a 2.3D stroker now. So it's a 2-liter crank inside of a 2.5 case. And since, we're now getting so much more data than we ever did before too. We're running EMAP, turbo speed. We've got sensors on both sides of the turbo. It's the data we're getting from that, even 4-channel EGT and stuff like that. This is stuff that, like, in a street class car you wouldn't have. An unlimited car maybe, but you wouldn't have that in like a street mod or street GTA. Through that data, we're able to make this car more reliable. We went to a significantly larger hot side than we ever would have back in the day, specifically to keep exhaust manifold pressures down. It's easier on the engine. It's just more efficient. We are not. When I first started in 2019 with the big power stuff, we were waxing 3 engines a year. Yeah. We wouldn't have lost anything last year. It would have been a refresh if not for a cam gear falling apart on Road America. I think we've got it pretty close to where, I'm not going to lie, you have to approach it a certain way. And I will say a Subaru engine won't put up with as much shenanigans, but if you approach it the right way and do the right things, you can actually keep them pretty reliable up to 800. Past that, if you're trying to go lap past that, good luck. And I'm not saying you're going to do 20-minute, 30-minute sessions at 800, but you could do 2 laps.
Yeah. Well, and I think one thing, so Dewey runs in street mod. One thing that I like that Grid Life has done is, and even to an extent that GTA has done it this year with their street class, they keep the tire size fairly small so that you don't have this horsepower chase, issue. I mean, even at 750, right? Like that is a ton of power to try and put through 285s, 255s for all-wheel drive, like for you. So, I mean, what's the point, right? What's the point of trying to go to 800, 900 horsepower? There's not, which I can appreciate, right? That keeps everybody reined in at least a little bit.
That's the reason we don't have guys like Cal Fortner. He throws aftermarket turbos on that AMG GT. He's gonna make 1,000 wheel without even blinking at it, but he's got to try to cram that through 285s, or the same situation with Ryan Matthews. There's a million different ways for him to legally make 1,000 horsepower, but he's got to be able to drive it. And that's why I say street modified is kind of insulated. If you don't build a car for street modified, you can't just show up and win. It's got to be a very particular type of build. And it's insulated from somebody just showing up with either A ton of money, or B, just a ridiculously good driver in some half-ass car. You can't do that.
So question for you. Oh, go ahead, Kilgore.
Sorry, I was going to finish that off, which is, I think that is one thing that, at least for me, I like and appreciate, but I see a difference in Street GT. Because in Street GT, we can run 315s. Those freaking Corvettes run like 13-inch wheels with the 315s, and like no one else, other than the Camaros, no one else can fit that.
No.
So it's very difficult. I'm running 11.5s, and I'm still like, that's as big as I can go. But the Corvettes are like, 11.5s is a downsize for them. So again,
Milwaukee, I don't know if you heard, Milwaukee makes this tool called a Sawzall. Like if you really wanted 315s in there, bud, we could get them. You ain't gonna like the result. Well, you'll like the times, but you won't like what the car looks like.
Well, but one of the issues is literally the size of the wheel well. Is you start turning those 315s, you're having to relocate auxiliary coolers in the front corners of the car, right? You don't want rubbing up on those. So to your point, you've got to really start modifying the car to do that. And Street GT at least is not currently there. It could be. We'll see what happens in the future. But anyway, at least with that is what I like about Street Mod, is it allows some of these other cars to compete. I'm not going to say more easily, but
I think that's fair. There's a path. You know what I mean? In your situation, like the path doesn't really seem feasible. And then you look at a class like Street. Like there's really only like 4 or 5 cars that are like viable. Street GT is really, you kind of have to purchase the right platform to be competitive right out of the gate. You're not going to create the perfect mousetrap. You kind of have to purchase it. And I think Street GT is actually, of all the classes in Grid Life Time Attack, Street GT is the least insulated. Because you could put a monster with a good set of tires in a C6 Z06, and they can immediately get on podium.
Yep.
You kind of can't do that in other classes. You're not just going to show up. Maybe if you have a ton of money and you bought somebody else's unlimited time attack car or something, you go buy a GT2 RS and, with a pile of money and run unlimited with some Hoosiers, you're going to do okay, because especially on a weekend that maybe like a Ferris doesn't show up, like you could feasibly win, but those 2 classes, everything else is, even Sunday Cup is fairly insulated. You're not just going to show up. Sunday Cup's probably the second most insulated class.
Here at the Perfect Lab Podcast, we're happy to introduce Whoosh Bespoke Wheels as a sponsor of the show. Whoosh Bespoke was born out of necessity. Their race team struggled to find wheels that offer the perfect fit, strength, durability, and that big old thing, a reasonable price. The people behind Whoosh Bespoke are racers and engineers seeking engineering excellence, and they offer precision forged wheels crafted by racers for racers, with a product lineup that includes a wide range of options from monoblock to modular wheels, including 2- and 3-piece wheel designs, all engineered from the finest materials, although they do primarily use 6061 T6 forged aluminum, but they do offer things as high of quality as a magnesium alloy. So this really can work for any setup you're trying to go for. Customization is at the heart of what they do at Whoosh Bespoke. You can tailor your wheels with custom sizes, offsets, finishes, and even options like custom lettering, adding two-tones. Their colors include both standard and premium finishes, as well as special finishes like brushed, hand-polished, and even paint to sample. Every set of wheels produced exceeds the JWL standards and meets the rigorous WCEC quality standards, and they are tested by real people with real cars racing all around the world. And guess what? Me and Kilgore, we're also going to be part of that team. So we're going to be putting these things to the test. We're putting them on our cars. Kilgore's going to be repping out and going through all the time attack season. I'm going to be beating them up at HPDE days and just having a good time with them. So I want you to go take a look at them and make sure you give them a follow on all their socials. It's whooshautomotive.com, Whoosh Automotive on all the socials. Go check them out. So you were starting, let's say you were starting over today.
Yep.
You said, you know what? I'm getting ready to Boogeyman. I'm going to anything else in any other class. Where do you go? What do you get?
I love street mod. Okay, so you're going to have a hard time dragging me out of that class, but I'm very married to this brand. Everything good in my life came from Subarus. My job, my friends, my wife, my kids, all of it. It all came from Subaru. Okay, so I have a very hard time leaving that. So I'm probably going to end up in a DCT swapped BRZ in street mod.
Okay.
And I honestly, that would be a weapon. It would be, I would kind of take the concept that they were going towards with Super K, which damn near won one lap of America this year, and take that same approach. And the car is much more aerodynamic. The chassis is phenomenal. Like anybody who tries to argue that a BRZ chassis is not absolutely ridiculously good is lying. And I think you could do some damage with it. And I you have lots of options. If I took Boogie's engine and stuffed it in there behind a DCT, it'd be an immediate weapon, an absolute immediate weapon. If I were to stick an H6 in it, which I could, it would be a weapon. There's options there. I got to be real. The next thing I'm probably going to be doing though is taking an FA24 swap first gen BRZ, which is I've got a 13 that I'm looking at doing this now, and wandered over into GLTC to go bang doors with my buddy Jeremy Boysen. But
is that Jeremy Bailey's current setup for Club
yes,
TR?
that's what he's running in Club TR.
Okay.
And Jeremy Bailey is a really good buddy of mine. Him and I go way back to our days in the Marine Corps. That's where we met. He's the best man in my wet. Like that's not much. So he put a ton of work into getting that car together. I desperately he first tried to run street mod with a supercharger with that car. I'm like, dude, that ain't gonna work. And then Club TR happened. It took me forever to talk him into not K swapping it and getting an FA24. And no matter which way we look at it now, it was the right answer.
Yeah.
Okay.
I feel like I'm starting to see people backing away from K swaps. I mean, they're still obviously highly done, but like people are really starting to be like, maybe these aren't the best. Where you have issues, they're recurring problems, and people are kind of saying maybe we could go back to some of the FA24 or something like that.
People dump on stuff so fast, especially when it's a Subaru. And the first second they have an issue, they're like, Subarus all suck. Because they've been told and it's been ingrained in their brain that the only right answer is a Honda engine. Okay. And the reality of it is the FA20, as long as you run the correct oil and it's got a good tune and you keep temps in check, is a hammer reliable engine. My white BRZ that I've got my buddy Jordan borrowing, and he's just running it all season, I know it's going to last the season. If it doesn't, I don't really care, but it will, because if it dies, I'm going to stuff an FA24 in it, so it'll never die. It's just how it works. But I would take this to events I'd loan it to a buddy so it'd be at the event. I could get some extra seat time. I'd run Boogie. Hell, this would happen a lot. Boogie would go down. Okay. So I would run the car in like, the advanced session because they were running HPD at the time. And then 2 other people were running it in like beginner and intermediate. So we would just hot lap that thing all day long, 3 days straight through a grid life weekend. And all we do is do an oil change once. And it just laughed at it. But if you overfill it by half a quart or so, put 5W30 in it instead of 0W20, and you've got a good E85 tune in it, they're solid. And the FA24, we're getting there with it. It's got some small issues. The oil return problem, which people seem to think is an oil slosh problem. Aftermarket pans are starting to come out. If you overfill it and, you keep an eye on temps, they're really solid. And honestly, you overlay the dyno of a FA24 with basic bolt-ons and a tune with an K24 basic bolt-ons and a tune. The K makes it has a little more RPM to play with, but the FA makes more torque everywhere. And yeah, you're missing 1,000 RPM, but it makes more torque everywhere, more power literally everywhere, and it makes about 5 to 7 more horsepower. So like, why wouldn't you?
Yeah, it definitely gets into those realms. I think as a prior Subaru person and someone who kind of, obviously I perpetuated a little bit and making a lot of jokes about it, but it's definitely a situation where like I ran a 2006 STI on like doing track events, HPD days.
Sure.
I ran, I'm trying to remember, it was something like 56 events in 1 year.
Yeah.
And drove it to work and back. Like, I beat the hell out of that car, and it just came back asking for more, to the point of running multiple seasons before I pushed the stock block, bone stock block, never opened, to 430 horsepower, and did that for an entire year before, on the last event of that season, which I ran Global Time Attack and Redline Time Attack, and won every event that I went to, by the way, and
with your daily,
with the daily, and the last event of the year where I was dual hatting 2 competitions at the same time, it finally popped a head gasket.
Yeah. Not even took the bottom end out, you shit a head gasket.
Now, I will say this, when I took it apart, 2 of the 4 rods were definitely bent. But you know what? It was fine.
Dude.
It drove onto the trailer.
Stories that what you did during that time is keep it within its bounds. Okay. And as long as you play within the boundaries, the cars are great. Okay. But the second you start messing around outside of its boundaries, they burn you. I will not lie. The second you overstep, you're gonna get hurt. And I'm a perpetual overstepper, but again, it's kind of my job. But at least I know what the limits are to tell people. That's why we have track Subies and all these other things, to try to like explain these are the limits. If you go past them, you will get hurt. But you're a perfect example of what a lot of people, the luck they've had with Subarus, and I wish that's what most of the world knows as the luck they have with Subarus. That's why they're still so popular in Australia and Europe and everywhere else. But here, we're dumb.
We take little tidbits of 1 or 2 people and explode it into something that was massively overstated, and then everyone runs with it forever and ever and ever. Like, I still get people that tell me when I was running 800 wheel horsepower on a Subaru in an unlimited class, and people were like, yeah, but you were like out engines like every 2 days. And what people really don't understand is, really, I wasn't. I would pop a head gasket, we'd have to pull pull it off, and then it's like we were trying to figure out the clamping on the heads to keep that all there, because we were trying to
imagine if that was solved, how much more you would have won.
Absolutely, right?
Exactly.
Like, it was not easy, and we were working with, you know, more of an archaic, in terms of technology today, an archaic engine control system. Yeah. And, you know, at the end of the day, it was very difficult to keep now. And I noticed something really interesting. You mentioned that you keep your car in the high 5s to low 6s. And I find that interesting because I usually tell people, if you're a Subaru and you're trying to keep the car alive, I usually say, stay under 6. If you stay under 6, you can beat the crap out of that car and it will keep coming back for more. Like you said, play within the bounds of reality, and it's vastly acceptable. And let me tell you, a 600 horsepower Subaru rips.
Dude, I try to tell people, like, I cannot tell you how many times I have people call me. You know, I work at IEG, so I have people call me and they're like, I want 600 horsepower. And by the end of the conversation, what it ends up being is really what you wanted was 450. And people don't even can't wrap their brain around what 450 is. 450 is so vast in a Subaru. There is nothing streetlight to streetlight outside of a modded GTR or like a new 911 Turbo S that's going to hang with you. You know, you can do whatever you want with that car. You want to go take Grandma to the grocery store, do it. Want to go drag racing? Fine. You're going to run, you know, you're going to run well into the 12s, maybe even high 11s with it. You know, if you can drive right, take it to a track day. You're going to have a great time. You'll hang out with Porsches and Corvettes, and that's going to be the run group you're going to be running with. And they aren't going to know what to do with you, you know, because you're going to make power in just odd ways compared to them. But you can do whatever you want with it. Want to go take it up in the mountains? You can still do that. You know, once you go past that, you kind of have to pick a direction. That sucks. But it's like that 450, it is 450 in an STI is like the greatest car ever. And you know, everybody's just so, Instagram has melted so many people's minds.
YouTube, Instagram.
Everybody thinks they need 800-900 horsepower. You don't. That Hellcat that makes 900 horsepower weighs more than 4 of your cars put together. So like you don't need that.
Yeah, I definitely think one of my favorite setups of all time was the 7163 in my Subaru, making roughly 500 horsepower. And it was so good. Like, spool felt near stock. You could just rip everywhere. And again, like, you go to the track, instantly you were, you know, being realistic, like you were literally in the top 10 of any group and just having a good time.
Immediately, you can run such ridiculous times with a car like that. And I'm not gonna lie, like, I love Garrett, and Garrett has taken very good care of me, and I would just want to throw that out there. And I love my G35 1050, and they've been awesome. But my old Borg EFR was a great turbo for me, and properly sized turbos is really the answer here, though.
Correct.
Like, a properly sized turbo for what you're trying to do. Don't wrap your brain around a horsepower number. Wrap your brain around power band and response, and it'll totally change how you approach the car. And
Absolutely.
you're gonna net faster times. You're just gonna clear ground faster.
Yeah. Hey guys, give me 1 second. I'm trying to post my BMW for sale. Obviously, I need to go buy a Subaru. Y'all are making me a believer.
Oh, it's good, man. It's good.
Jaeger's pants were getting tight.
Soon, I'll let you take it for a rip, and you'll be like, "What the hell is it?" I don't know if you've seen recently, but Scott Speed's even putting together an 05 STI that's more of a street/weekend track car build, like literally what we're talking about right now. He's doing a big Subaru back build. Yeah, my boys over at Six Star are putting it together right now.
That's awesome.
So I mean, there's a lot happening in that sphere. Us older guys, you know, I'm in my 40s, and we're all starting to look at these, you know, GD STIs that we wanted back when we were younger, and now we can build them the right way. Those are by far my favorite build to get involved with now. They're so much fun because you get to do it so right, and you're not focusing on horsepower. You're just focusing on making a good car, and it is so much fun.
I mean, it's definitely one of those things where, like, I 100% miss going to a time attack and seeing 10 Subarus in the mix. Like,
come to a Grid Life event.
And that's the thing, right? Like, going to these events, I just don't see them. I did notice, obviously, when I watched CMP the other day, I definitely saw quite a few more Subarus than what I'm used to seeing at Time Attack events.
Yep.
So I guess I'll kick this off with well, maybe it's just a West Coast thing.
It's a West Coast.
Maybe it's where all the West Coast guys have moved. Essentially, all the guys, like, we've interviewed so many people that were like, I had a Subaru, I got rid of it. I got a Supra, I got a Corvette, I got a BMW. And that seems to be, and don't get me wrong, I also go down a weird path where I go, I get it. If you're trying to win, one thing I think that people really have a misconception of is, and don't get me wrong,
all right,
I'm
here
a
we
complete asshole for saying this, but you don't always gotta go to win. You can go there just to improve as a driver and have a good time. I'm also like, I spent every last dollar in my bank account plus an extra $100,000 I didn't have, but you get my point.
Sure. But it's also, you got to put stuff into perspective. But I think you can win with a car you like if you're willing to put the effort into it. A perfect example of that is, let's look at like Will Young.
Yeah.
Okay. Look at the times he set with a front wheel drive Civic in Unlimited. There are times that are still standing today.
Yeah.
And a front wheel drive Civic in Unlimited that Ferris cannot beat. I mean, so if you love it, you can develop it to that point. Or you run in a class where the car just fits well. So like Street is none but Subarus and Evos. And if you aren't running a Subaru or an Evo, don't even show up. There's not another good option in Street.
So
at least not that somebody's put together yet.
So I'll ask you this. Do you feel, and I'm just going to, I'll pick on Grid Life a little bit. Do you feel that Grid Life has made classes kind of platform specific?
I don't think they've made classes platform specific. What they have done is identified an issue. Okay. Like I'll explain where Street GT came from in a really easy, like, this is how Street GT happened. We had Corvettes that were in Street class, and it didn't make sense for the Corvette or Street class. Okay. The guy literally leased a Corvette in one Street that year. And it didn't make sense. Okay. So the argument then became like, wouldn't it be cool? We have all these modern muscle cars with all these fat tires, and either they're downsizing their tires and shoving themselves into Street in a place they really honestly don't want to play. Or they're having to run in track mod because their tires are too big. They don't fit in Street mod. And they're up against, like Evos with sequentials and Ferris throwing on a different set of tires and taking a dump on everybody and, things like that. So wouldn't it be cool if there was a class for this? A modern muscle class. That's where Street GT came from, because it was out of necessity. And when they did that, they outlawed V8s in Street. So
Gotcha.
it separated the two classes. Grid Life's really big on trying to find a need for a class. Okay, so let's look at Club TR. This is another one that I really love. The amount of guys who would show up in a Civic that were missing a pile of interior in some random swap, and they would end up getting shoved into track mod. But you got to understand, Grid Life came from, it kind of spawned out of West Michigan Honda meet. Okay, so a huge amount of those guys were Honda guys, and their cars didn't fit in these classes. So Club TR was Club Track Rat. They're like, let's just make a class for Track Rat cars. And that's where it came from. And yeah, it turned into, BRZs with Ks, but like, it also got won last year by an Integra with a K-swap. And like, the class is phenomenal. And they put some interesting limitations on it, but it was spawned of Time Attack. Now let's take one more step back, and why I don't want to throw too much shade, but that yellow dot on the top of your hat just aggravates me to no end. Sunday Cup is Time Attack because it was spawned from Time Attack. Okay, it came as we already had like 10 fits would show up, and we ran this subclass called Spec Fit. It wasn't an official class, but when you have 10, 12 cars showing up for a class already, which is larger than the other ran like normal classes. Okay, this is a sub haha class. They're like, let's actually just write some rules for this and make it a class. But the only way to keep it from turning into an arms race was we have to put some sort of power limitation on it. Now, at this time, GLTC existed, and that is already a power to weight wheel-to-wheel class. So they had the dyno there. So it was very easy for them to go, we can actually put a power to weight limit on it. And everybody's like, that makes it time trials. I don't agree, because it was spawned from Time Attack. Okay, that's yeah, there's rules applied to it, and one of the rules is a power to weight limitation. But it was born of Time Attack. And Time Attack has always had rules. The people were like, oh, back in the day, unlimited, yada, yada, there was no rules. Yeah, there were. It had to be a production vehicle. It had to have a dot style tire. And then when you didn't run it, they decide if you broke their rules, they would then turn around in Japan and say you aren't on the leaderboard, and they just boot your ass off. So like there's always been rules. So anybody who's like, the only real-time attack is unlimited, unlimited still has rules. There's still rules, or people would be showing up with Formula One cars. There's rules. So you can't say it's due to rules. Oh man, you're getting me tweaked.
Let me
aggravate me that people out there who honestly who get aggravated at Sunday Cup when Sunday Cup made it really easy for my 16-year-old son. We just bought a Mini, a non-turbo 06 Mini that's going to be his first car, but we're going to shove it into Sunday Cup because I think it's great. And it's a way to introduce him into some form of motorsports, and especially Time Attack. And it's an entry drug to where he can go blow all his money. I hope to God he becomes a doctor, because I do not have the money to pay for this.
Let me push back a little bit. Let me just give a different take. Yeah, let me give a different take. I don't have an issue with Club SC as it fits now. Sure. No pun intended. No pun intended there when I just said that.
Yeah. That's a cute pun.
But, you know, I really struggle to think and accept that a spec class is Time Attack.
It's not spec.
Well, I know, not now. It isn't. But like, sort of when it first started out of sort of that B spec fit, right? Like it was a little more spec, but now I don't really have a problem with it. But this also goes to, and this is sort of a running joke within Street GT, we should all just buy C6 Z06s, and it would be a ton of fun, because then everybody would just be in the same car and it would basically be a spec class. And I'm like, if that happens, I'm out. Like I'm not interested in that.
And not only that, Grid Life's not interested in that. It didn't become a real class until they made a rule set to where more cars could be a part of it. It's just, you see a ton of fits because a ton of people already had them. Yeah. They already kind of had them developed. But like, I really think this non-turbo Mini is going to be a very valid option. Hell, the fits are using the front brakes off of them already.
Yeah. I mean, it's great seeing the Minis. Richard Sawicki, obviously, it was awesome watching him wreck at Club SC in his Miata, like his 1.6 liter Miata. That was a lot of fun.
Drama with that, boy. Man,
we need to get.
There's going to be rowdy next week. I'm going to tell you right now, because we're bringing all the Sunday Cup guys on. They're going to.
That's awesome.
That's literally the conversation.
That's wait. Hold on a second. So, as you can tell, I have not kept up with the rules of Club SC. I assumed it was still spec fit, which is a big thing of where I go down the road of, that's not Time Attack if you're spec fitting it. I didn't know that they migrated to a rule set where you could have. So I'm just going to make sure I capture this correctly. So basically, it's a rule set now where you can have a car of any kind, but they just have a bunch of rules to limit what it can do. So
for the most part, the car has to fit within the rule set, and I think there's a maximum displacement and some other crap, like stuff that would show up in any other class. But for the most part, if you can fit it in the rules, you can run it.
Is there an actual?
is
there's a
power
horsepower cap?
24, 25 to 1 or something like that.
Yeah,
I think.
there is a power to weight cap.
Yeah.
That is,
Okay.
and they will run you on the dyno. It's the only class we have that does that. And again, the reason for that is so it's not a horsepower class. It is the only way to stop that, and it is the only class they do, and it's to keep costs as low as humanly possible.
I will say this: I would eliminate the Miata from this class because I'm just gonna. I don't even know anything about this. It was okay. I was gonna say I would 100%.
That was last year's drama. It is no longer in this class.
Got you. Because I was gonna say
they made a bunch of rules that basically made it uncompetitive.
Yeah,
it was one or the other.
Got you.
And I think that was part of the displacement. And to Dewey's point, right? What they're trying to keep people from doing is taking some, a VRZ or a Corvette or whatever, and depowering the thing down to 150 horsepower, right? Or something like that. So it's they're trying to kind of keep people within, which I can appreciate. People push the rules. I know Richard, I've talked to him about it, and it was great. He totally did what Dewey said you're supposed to do.
Oh, yeah.
He read the rule book 10 times, and then he started looking and was he was like, I can do all of these things, and I can build a ringer of a car, and he did it, and God bless him for it. He did a great job.
Hats off to him. You will never hear me complain that somebody found an awesome piece of the rule book and it's 100% legal. Now, I will sit there and bitch about it until I come to the terms of a perfect example of this is when they shoved a DCT. They took a BMW DCT and shoved it into an S2000. I was fuming over this because they managed to get this in, even though it's basically a sequential transmission and you can paddle shift it it's an OEM transmission. It didn't say an OEM transmission for that car. And I was like, and I was mad for years about that. I'm like, I can't believe you guys didn't write something for that. But it was just reading the rule book, right? And I hate it, but it's the truth. And that's one of the things I really like about Grid Life. And it has kind of, bastardized some classes to a bit. Street Modified was supposed to be like street cars with bolt-ons, and all our cars look like unlimited cars from 2010.
So I'll ask this question now.
Sure.
Do you think there's too many classes?
No. Because they're full.
Okay.
The least, if we're filling them up with people and everybody's having a good time, they got rid of HPDE, which I'm kind of sad about but happy about at the same time. When they got rid of HPDE, we now have more sessions to put all these cars in. And then the way Podium Sprint is ran, you're not running. I don't have a problem with rear-ending a fit during Podium Sprint, so all it does is give people more, options to come enjoy Grid Life and be a part of all this. And I think it's fantastic. Now, I could see it getting, as it goes down the road, but I feel like they've done a very good job of splitting these up in different ways. And they even did a really good job of kind of reworking track mod, and track mod was a very dead class for years. It's kind of the same thing as limited in global.
PGA, yeah.
We'd have 2 or 3 cars show up, and 2 of the 3 cars ended up just accidentally falling into that class.
Yeah.
Really what track mod ended up being was I didn't read the rules class. And it was just a bunch of, and that sucks. And now track mod is turning into a war zone, which is awesome. So even track mod's filling out, I don't believe that at all. I think there's some classes that maybe need to be tweaked a little bit, maybe give some help to a couple more platforms to kind of break it up a little bit. Street being one of them. I don't know what we could do to maybe allow some other stuff in that class to wake that up a little bit, but Street Mod there's constantly something different at the top of Street Mod. It's very rare that something else is up at the top, or that the same car's up at the top every week.
Yeah, I was gonna say if you didn't say what you already said, which was I would make tweaks, I'd say you're full of shit. Because every event I have ever gone to in my life, whether it be Grid Life, GTA, Redline back in the day, every time I look at the rules, I go, this needs tweaks to some degree, like you're saying, to get people on these scales so that it makes sense. Because like you said, GTA had limited class was literally the catch-all of bullshit. Hey, I forgot to put a door panel in. Oh, they caught me with my center console out. Limited. And, you know, no one's running limited times. And it was like 2 limited guys versus a bunch of guys who should be in like enthusiast or street class that are bumped up. So it is nice because, like you're saying, in track mod and then in limited in GTA, all of those numbers are starting to rise, and we're starting to see real competition in those classes. So it kind of warms my heart to see more guys purpose building their cars for these levels of competition.
Yep.
They were until Alan Patton showed up in his freaking Corvette.
Well, actually, last year, Grid Life track mod was quite the war. Jackie Gang, that crazy BMW, a couple different cars were in there. They were going at it, and then Alan built a frickin' JATO rocket. That thing is nuts.
It's a monster. It is a monster.
He's also a monster himself.
Well, that's true. Yeah, at Road Atlanta.
You guys got to hear the whine.
Yeah, the last.
All you hear.
I guess it was the second session and the third session, which was of the 3 sessions we got total. Which I was a little annoyed about, but at the same time, it is what it is. I got thrown at the back of A group, and I was like, dude, you got to be kidding me. Like, you got, Ferris and these guys, like, I mean, when they have that much closing speed, you really have to be
on your A game.
And what was it? I'm trying to think back. It was the last time I was at Road Atlanta. And it was with an SCCA. It was with SCCA, and there were some fast guys there. There were guys there in Corvettes, and I was in like the fast run group, but they did such a crappy job of getting everybody around that by the end of my first lap, I had the fast guys passing me on the back straight, right? So I hadn't even got a full lap in, and they were passing me, and so I was like, okay, hopefully. And everything worked fine. I was actually able to get 2 laps in before I even saw anybody in my rearview mirror, which was awesome, to the testament that everybody was working together and they were doing the outlaps correctly. And but dude, I had both Alan and Ferris pass me on the back straight. Like I was on a cooldown lap and they both passed me, and it was awesome. I was like, yeah, go. Like, yeah, dude. Oh my God. I was like, yes, this is awesome.
Oh man, yeah. A group can be wild. Road Atlanta can be wild because you've got these guys that will come from other organizations and they'll do these really slow, warm up laps, and then they'll take off like a bat out of hell in 10, and everybody's still parked there. And then by the, I don't know if you guys ever saw this video. It was from like Willow Young in like 17 or 18, where he came over the hill.
I saw it.
Oh my God, I've never seen more nightmare fuel in my life. Yeah. I think about that every single time I go over that hill. I'm like, there's a parking lot down here. We're all dead. Yeah.
That was really scary. Really scary to watch.
That sort of happened in the first session, which can happen. I think people need to be more aware of it. When I was in B group, because we had the K-tuned NSX GT3 car in B group, as well as, right, I feel like in B group you have the largest variety in terms of delta, right, from the slowest to the fastest.
I don't agree with that, but I feel like you have the largest delta in driver ability.
Sure, that's fine. I'll agree with that. But I came over. It was later in the session. I came over turn 9, coming into the brake zone, and there were like 3 cars. I could see the NSX was in front of me, but I literally had to dive bomb. And luckily, he saw me. There was also, I think it was Michael Young in his C8 Z06, he saw me and he stayed to the outside, but like, luckily those guys had situational awareness to see, like, I came around, and on that back straight, you lose sight of who's coming up behind you once you crest and you start going into that brake zone. Like, you have to make sure that you take a look in your mirror before you hit that crest, or else someone can be on you real quick.
Man, do I know about that?
So, quick question for you, Dewey. Favorite racetrack for Time Attack out of, doesn't matter the organization, doesn't matter any of that BS.
Oh, no, just sure.
Overall track that you love to Time Attack at.
I'm really big on having a balanced track. Okay. So me personally, and I think this is why the Axe Murders come out for Mid-Ohio is Mid-Ohio. Mid-Ohio is perfect. It's got a little of everything. It's got some weird off-camber stuff. It's got some fast stuff. It's got slow stuff. It's got a big straight. It's got some dig zones. It's got some, it's got a little of everything. Mid-Ohio is honestly probably one of the most balanced tracks in North America. It's really good. And the more I've driven it, the more I've kind of like fallen in love with it. I could go on for days about what bad time attack tracks are.
Let's do it.
Give me top three. Give me top three.
Coda, and Coda.
Oh God.
Coda really sticks in there. I'll also say Lime Rock Park isn't great. The problem is you have Looney Tunes fast cars, and if you were really to you run into way too many traffic issues. Gotcha. Like right after one lap, you're into traffic problems. So Lime Rock Park.
Lime Rock has all the makings of one. It's just not enough. It's just too many, right? They have one straight, a couple of turns, which are pretty good turns, right? Some sweepers, some kind of tighter turns, but there's just not enough of them. It's like they have like one of each, and then you're back to the beginning.
Road America is the polar opposite. Road America is huge, but it's all straightaways. And you're going to see cars at the top of the leaderboard that, I got to be real, the only thing they can do is haul ass down the straights. I mean, Boogie, we see 173 times in one lap.
Damn.
Like, that's ridiculous. It's stupid hard on cars. Like, it takes too long to get around. So you're going to get a lap and a half that's going to be solid, before the car's falling to pieces. And it's not great. You know what I mean? But Coda's too long. Okay. And people will be like, wow, the straightaway's really long and it favors high horsepower cars. Yeah, but there's a lot of curvy shit to Coda too. It's just too big. That's the problem. Personally, I think GTA should have kept Buttonwillow as super lap battle. I think they had this history they built there. You had guys coming from the East Coast to go to this. Like that was exciting. It was its own really cool thing. They should have called, I don't know, call Coda the World Series of Time Attack or something. Just come up with some other name for it and build its own history. But I think when they changed it to GTA Finals, it took a little bit away. It was kind of its own prestige event with its own name. The name had been around for a million years. I think Nads came up with it. Like it had this kind of mystique to it that I think it really got tainted when they moved it. And that's one of the things that's really irked me for a while. Grid Life, we've got Gingerman. Gingerman's balanced. Both of these tracks are kind of, let's be real, they're shitholes. Like Buttonwillow, they are. I've actually like kind of cruised around Buttonwillow when I was out there going to Laguna. I'm like, oh, that's Buttonwillow, because we were on our way through going towards Arizona, and the road took us right past there. So I pulled in with the RV and like looked around. I'd never seen it. And the grass literally is, or the sand is like talcum powder. It's insane.
Wait till you find that inside your car. You'll never get it out.
It's never come out. But again, it's got its own like thing and mystique. And like, I might have never driven it, but I can understand why it holds that, because on the opposite side, we have Gingerman, which is this farm track in the middle of the field that there's no way you will ever run a perfect lap there, because it doesn't exist, because it's all these weird combined goofy corners, but it's got a couple of straights. It's balanced, and trying to go fast on Gingerman is a super pain in the ass. And there's like a million different factors that have to come into putting a fast lap together. And one of them is the drifters didn't destroy it already.
Yeah.
Don't
get me started.
No, I get it. I get it. I get it. We're going to take a, much more standard type attack approach to Gingerman this year, where we're probably going to make a record attempt before the drifters destroy the track, even if it's in a practice. Like, we're going to go attempt it, and then we'll worry about winning the event after.
So when are we going to find you at Buttonwillow? It seemed like you had a lot of historical reference.
I think my biggest issue, and I'll go and run limited because of how stuff is now, but at the time, my car was not even remotely set up for limited. It was
Gotcha.
a street modified car, but there were some really small things in the rules that in GTA that still to this day piss me off. I don't understand why you wouldn't do something like this, but they were mad. Their biggest bitch was my cage on my A-pillar was gusseted to my A-pillar. And
Yeah.
I'm like, this thing is a complete crap box. If I want to make sure this cage is as safe as possible. And that is a safety issue to me. And I think there are certain things, especially with older cars, they should start making some small changes to the rules with making sure they're maintaining, that's one thing I will say GTA has always done a very good job of the rules are the rules and these are the rules. So the record matters. Okay. And
Yeah.
I believe that Grid Life has gotten a little loose at times with that. They've gotten better about it, but got loose, especially for a certain time period where they were letting some really crazy shit get away. That with Time Attack, once you open up Pandora's box, it can't be closed.
Yeah.
Once the thing has been ran or the time has been set, you can't unset it. And they had some teething issues with that it took them a lot longer than maybe it should have to figure out. And I will say GTA has had a lot more respect for the rule book. And that's probably the biggest reason they don't mess with certain things like that. But there are certain things like from a safety standpoint, guys, like you're saying it would be completely legal for me to run on this track without a cage whatsoever. I'll just put the crappy interior back. And it's a 95 Impreza L, and I could crank this thing to 800 wheel on 255s, and for you, that's okay. That's not okay. But
yeah, I get what you're saying. I mean, you want to
out there anymore, and that's okay. If they want a street to be nothing but Supras, then the street will be nothing but Supras.
Yeah, it's tough because, like you said, it's balancing the history, it's balancing the rule book, it's balancing all of those things. I will agree with you. I don't, and I've never asked, so obviously I don't know. Just like many things in life, but I never asked why. Why did we make that rule that said as soon as you put the gusseting to the body of the car or to the interior of the car or whatever, all of a sudden that's going to bump you up to limit or whatever, and we're going to do that when, and I can imagine. I mean, like I know my Subaru, I did the same thing on my A-pillars. I had that gusset going up, and so if I was in street class, I would have immediately been bumped. I mean, don't get me wrong, I was on the bad end of the stick when they did the limited class rule change, and they said limited's going too fast, so underbody aero, we're cutting that out. And
you can't go one way or the other. That pisses me off even more because you can't allow a bunch of cars to have underbody aero and then go, yeah, you guys are going too fast. You're threatening our unlimited guys. Okay, no more underbody aero. But then the times you were against were of cars with flat bottoms. That's bullshit.
Yeah, it's a very difficult road to travel where it's a weird like thought ship, right? Of like, do you want to slow cars down? Are you trying to keep them within a box? Or are you trying to let them run wild? How are you going to get cars to where you really want them to be? And I think, like, I look at grid lifetimes, right? And one thing that I noticed, and I do this for all organizations, is I'll look at their blocks and I'll go, okay, Street GT is from here to here. And then Street Class is from here to here. And then Street Mod is from here to here. And you can kind of count those blocks down and go, okay, I see what they're trying to do lap time wise.
And you're going to have overlap in some classes.
Agreed. Okay. Always. You're always going to end up with some degree.
Depending on the track, things like that, you're going to have a decent amount of overlap where you'll have some classes that are like Club TR will be really fast, probably street, well, not quite street GT fast, but Club TR is ridiculously fast at something like Gingerman. The cars are light. The cars are set up really well. They can lap Gingerman really quick because they can just do the curvy section at blistering paces. We'll go to Road America and Street GT. There'll be Street GT guys that probably could have ran with Street Mod. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just because the car's pointy and it makes a pile of torque. There's you're gonna have that, but for the most part, I see what you're saying. They do separate it, but I don't think that was really their goal. Their goal is to put similar types of cars together. So they're competing against that across the full season.
Makes sense. I mean, we have to, my thing is always this. it's easier to get guys to come out and continue to come out if they feel they can be in a class that they can be somewhat competitive in. But as soon as you end up in a situation where you go, I'm entering my class into street and I am nowhere near, I'm 18th of 20th.
I'm here for second.
Yeah. Well, I was going like, if they're 18th of 20th and they're off by 12 seconds.
Oh, it's brutal.
Then you're like, oh, there's no hope.
Yeah, but well, yeah. Here's my thing, though.
You're gonna have those cars that go out there for their own personal, whatever. Okay, and I always appreciate that. I always found it like a good example. This is Rob Dahm. A couple of years ago, thought he was gonna like sneak the car into street mod and be like up with us. Found out real damn quick that ain't how it works around here. I love Rob. Rob's great people, but if you're going out there, there's lots of guys who will show up with their own personal thing they're trying to do. A lot of times they tend to be cars that are backed by certain stuff, or they're YouTubers or whatever. Like the Stance Works guy, like he doesn't have a prayer in Unlimited. He just doesn't. But it is super cool to see that car out there and improving. And I follow that build closer, and I follow a lot of builds. You're going to have those, but those are rare. And just like you said, like if you need the guy in his garage who thinks he can go out there and maybe sniff the podium. And so there's got to be a class for that guy, whether he detunes his car or messes around with some stuff and can find a spot that he fits.
Sure. I will say this, and I've sort of come around to this over the last couple of years, especially seeing where the state of time attack is today with Global Time Attack, SCCA, Grid Life, NASA to a degree. We don't really talk about NASA all that much, but I feel like that's just because it's so partitioned across the U.S. that, you know, each little region does its own thing. They don't really have much of a national, brand, etc. But, you know, with people, and I get why people want to show up and run Grid Life. It's a great event. It's great vibes, right? And there are a lot of fast cars. But I'm okay with Grid Life having some rules set that do limit someone, as you were just saying, Jaeger, from showing up and being competitive right away, right? Like, Grid Life to me currently is the creme de la creme of Time Attack. And if you're going to show up, you need to be ready to compete, right? Like, we are out there competing. This isn't just, you know, sort of your run-of-the-mill show up a little bit, you know, it's HPDE with, you know, times being tracked. No, like, a lot of people are putting a lot of time, investment, money into their builds, and that's perfectly okay. That's something that I appreciate about SCCA, which is they have a lot more classes, but that allows you to show up in whatever car you're showing up in and probably be more competitive. If you want to be competitive in whatever you're in, go run SCCA for a year or two. Get used to it. See what's going on. They've got great instruction. To me, it's a much better way to get your feet wet. Don't just jump straight into Grid Life and think that, like, you're going to be ready to go. I think that that's what we've seen, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to call anybody out, but we've seen some examples of that even this year, right? Where people just sort of show up and they realize, like, you know, they kind of come by wide-eyed and, like, they're like, oh crap, like, you know, making some mistakes and causing problems from other people. And we kind of have to say, like, hey, you know, maybe we need to rethink
maybe this ain't the right thing for you.
Yeah.
So now what I will say is, to both of your points, you still need to have somewhere that somebody could put, they can look at their chassis or whatever they're messing with for the most part. I mean, you're not gonna be able to take a, you know, Dodge Caravan and stick it in one of these classes, but they're going to be able to see a viable path in some class for their platform to do something. Okay. Whether they can ever afford it, whether they ever have a way to do it, they're not like pigeonholed into, I have to buy a Corvette.
Sure.
It's one reason I keep beating on this damn Subaru is, like, I still think it's a viable platform. You know, whether I'm stupid or not, I still think it's a viable platform, and others believe in it, and I've proven you can be competitive with this thing, and it's, people can see a GC doing that, and you can see, a Super doing that, but you could also see like your Hatch Civic being competitive in something, and you need to be able to see it in some way or another. And that's one of the cool things about Grid Life. So you see a pile of different cars coming along. Don't get me wrong, Road Atlanta had an absolute boatload of Corvettes running all over shit, but Midwest Fest, you're going to see all sorts of shit,
Yeah. Well, and I think that's why I think Grid Life currently has the classing structure pretty on point currently for what they are trying to do, right?
I don't see them having another class. I've thought about this. Like, I don't think they need one.
No. But you have enough to where you've got some separation, but you're also still filling classes with nearly double digits in every class, almost, right? You have people to compete against. You're not running, like 2 or 3 people in one class, right?
That's when you have problems.
It's just a good balance currently, right?
Oh, it's the worst when like Unlimited for years.
Barren Wasteland.
Cars would show up, like you wouldn't even hand out the 3rd place trophy. Like, what is that?
Yeah, that's one of the unfortunate aspects to this, right? Is when we get to those points of Unlimited is a wasteland, and the only people again that were going into that were people that pulled the dash out of a road race car, and and ended up there. And I don't know, it's always great when we're actually seeing the people show up that are competitive. That's why every event is better with great cars and great drivers and personalities, and that's one thing for me. I mean, that's the reason why I'm here today, is because I want to continue to show the personalities of Time Attack. I want to let other people be able to have that visual and understand and hear these people and their stories and what they're doing and how they're doing it. I think it's very, very important that we, continue to grow this culture. I think that Time Attack as a whole is just something that is so pure and so fun, right? Like, it's something that really took up a large chunk of my life that, I was able to share with numerous people throughout the time that I did it. And I continue to love it and continue to love going to events. And I love being shocked at, who wins. And I will say this, I'm desperately looking forward, because maybe I'm just an underdog lover. It's kind of funny because when you look at like some of the big teams, right? And you look at even in Time Attack, I always tell people, like, if you really want to do it right, I always love the concept of like presenting yourself as like a race team.
Yes.
And then on the flip side of that, then you have like Ferris showing up with just himself and maybe like a buddy or maybe even a bum he met on the corner that he paid $5.
Throw some heat wave sunglasses on him, and he's like, "You're in, bro."
Yeah, it's what But at the same time, like, it gets to that weird point where everyone goes, "Oh, Ferris is here; he's going to win the event." And so we need to have these guys step up, and that's where people like Eric Fleming and Life Motorsport. Well, Life Motorsports was kind of on that scale for a long period of time as well themselves. Willa Young was on that scale. I go back to GST and the L, right? Yeah. Like, they were on that. Like, when I got to Unlimited, they were there, and I had my humbling experience of going to Road Atlanta, in my car, leading the first day of the event to come back the second day and end up in 4th. So, because, Life, GST, and a random, I can't remember, GTR, eked me out. But like GST and Life, they far surpassed me and what I was able to do. But it was great. Like, honestly, I look at that event as one of the pinnacle events that I remember and that I loved, because we had at minimum, I think we had 5 real Unlimited class cars going and competing. So it was 5 really good race cars that had good teams behind them competing. And that's an event, I lost realistically. But I still remember that as like such a great and humbling experience because it was so awesome to go against cars that like I always saw of as like a mystical figure in my realm, right? Like the GSTL, like Jesus. So
yeah, no,
that's
same.
the kind
I
of
mean, I got to
stuff.
be real. Like a lot when I was first getting into this, I was watching you. You know what I mean? Like now half your car's on my car. So like,
Gotta love those
I
part
even
out sales,
started with an
baby.
oil cooler. You should see what we've done with the oil cooler concept at this point. It's we have surpassed you. But like, all sorts of ideas off your car, but yeah, I totally agree. And honestly, a healthy unlimited leads to a healthy time attack field, period.
Agreed.
And that's something that I think we need to see more of. But it's not a given these days when Ferris shows up and then say you have that oh my god, this guy's name slips by my mind all the time, but the 350Z with the half electric thing.
Oh,
Sasha. Anise.
Sasha, yeah, Anise.
Yeah, Sasha.
Yeah.
He shows up like there's like if they were to both run on Gingerman, I'm all in on Sasha. Like that's the honest to God truth, and limited again is starting filling out, and it's great, man. But like you guys were saying earlier, like grid life creates axe murderers, and if you're not ready to be an axe murderer, like this ain't it for you. Ain't it for you, man.
I'm still waiting for the day when we're gonna have some, and this is always my hope and dream, and this is maybe me just being a little hopeful, I guess, and that's where I kind of get to this weird realm of like COTA. I wish that COTA would be that event where I would see every grid life car and every GTA car and everybody show up and run and
have a hardcore North American time attack event. The perfect track existed for this, and it was totally slept on, and we crapped on it really bad. And then the guy decided not to pay taxes who owned it.
I know where you're going with this. Heartland.
Heartland was perfect. It was a perfectly balanced track. It had a giant paddock. It was dead center of the country. It could not have been better. I think there needs to be something like that. I agree. There needs to be a real North American Super Bowl of time attack, and it can't be at Buttonwillow, and it can't be at Gingerman. It's really not fair for either of those. The only track in my brain that makes sense, but it's a little more east than it should be, is Mid Ohio.
Gotcha.
And it's really good. It's really good.
I mean, I will say this. I will say this real quick. It's like my thing. Obviously, the only reason why I mentioned COTA is because after going to it, and because I will eat these words every day of the week. Before going to COTA, I always continually told people Super Lap Battle will forever be for me at finals. That is just what it'll be. Mm-hmm. And I always questioned why we're going to COTA because I didn't feel like it was a true time attack track.
Sure.
After going there and experiencing it, I understand the allure. I understand why people would go there one year and go, I got to go back again.
That's fair.
But I still go down that road of I fight myself in going, still don't particularly believe COTA is the best time attack track in the country. I would never put it as that top tier for me myself.
It's a great event.
Agreed. Okay, event, yes.
Concept of it. I don't want to take anything away from doing time attack at it, but it's not the perfect time attack track. The same thing that Grid Life Summer Apex Festival at Road America is a banger. If you don't go check that out, it is. They had dead mouse there last year. It's insane. And like, there's so much room. It's like a national park. It's incredible. The track isn't a great time attack track, but for spectators, it's phenomenal. You get to see all sorts of cool shit from all sorts of different corners, and it's great. Like, the event is great. That doesn't make it a great time attack track. You're like, we're going to go again because it's great, but that doesn't make it a great time attack track.
It's fair. I think one that I have not driven it, but I think it seems to have a lot of balance to it, and I think it also, because it's a pro track, probably has a lot of the facilities that are needed. But again, it's not in a great place. Would be Watkins Glen.
Yep. But we'd have to run it in the middle of the summer.
Yeah.
And if I'm remembering correctly, that's one of those tracks that doesn't allow any racing on Sunday.
Okay.
So that could be a problem too.
Yep.
But I agree. I think Watkins Glen would actually be a solid option. I think there's probably a few out there we're not thinking of, or maybe there's something like Florida. Like, I think, what is that called?
Don't
Homestead.
say Sebring. I was say, don't say Sebring.
No, not Sebring. Homestead. They're like infield. Like the track variation of that infield, honestly, would be pretty balanced, and it's got some high speed, some low speed. And then we could do that in like December, and it would be warm, and we could all make the pilgrimage to Florida and then hang out in Miami after. It'd be sick.
Oh man.
I think it's going to take somebody thinking outside of the box. I have heard rumors that Ian from World Time Attack and Chris Stewart from Grid Life have been having conversations. I'm a little annoyed that I talked an absolute ton of shit for Laguna 2 years ago. So we finally brought Grid Life out to the West Coast and nobody showed up. I was pretty annoyed about that.
I'm actually surprised that more West, like I was really surprised when I tuned into that event that I didn't know half the grid.
That was wild. I'm like, there's no way I'm not going to get my throat cut. And I was hoping for it. I really was. But I decided to just burn the car to the ground instead.
Yeah, you decided catching on fire was more fun.
Yeah, I mean, but I still set a street tire time there that ain't nobody going to touch anytime soon. So we'll see.
It's just one of those things where like stuff like that, like I get so confused because back in the day when I was really competing in Time Attack, if you would have told me we're going to Laguna Seca, it wouldn't even been a thought. It'd have been like, cool, where we sign up.
Especially when you hear it's a noise-free weekend.
Exactly.
People would have like, I'm blown away. We didn't have shit coming out of the woodwork.
Because I'm going to tell you right now, I'm still to this day furious because every time I tried to bring my Subaru Dakota, I would blow the engine before the event. Like straight up. I had the car. I had 1 year where I had everything. I thought it was so perfect. I thought I was going to be there. I like one test day away. I'm going to go to big. I'm going to leave it in low boost. We're going to cruise around. We're just going to make sure everything's working good. We were at like 580 horsepower, turning like 21s at Big Willow. And I was doing lap after lap. Car was cool as ice. Everything was perfect. And then I came out of turn 8, car just shut off. It was like hole in the block. We're done. And the spare block was still like in the works and I hadn't finished it yet. Because I'd blown another block up at finals. So that was already my spare block. And it's just one of those things, like I never made it to Coda, and that irked me. And so I always tell people like, dude, don't sleep on these like amazing events. Like when GTA ran the Long Beach Grand Prix. Yeah. I was like, that's one of those moments.
I'm not gonna lie, I was mad about that. I'm like,
devastated.
That would be sick. Oh. I wanted to run that so bad. There was just no way I could make that make any sense. I wanted to run that so bad. That would have been so cool. What an awesome experience for anybody who got to do it. Jackie, I talked to Jackie a bunch about it. He's like, it was as incredible as you think it would be.
I did everything I could to be as close as I possibly could. So I like pit crewed for JC Monet. And that's like as close as I could be. Yeah. But it was just like one of those things where it just still like irks me to this day to think about the opportunity missed of going to Coda and to not be able to make it to some of these events. And so this is just kind of a call out to all you Time Attack drivers out there. Don't sleep on these events. These organizations are putting these events on for you to be there, to let you have this amazing opportunity to run these amazing tracks. Don't sleep on them. Don't think I'll do it next year. Guess what? Next year won't happen. they easily could fall off the schedule. It doesn't make sense because no one showed up. You know, I always love to think of like the guys who in New Jersey. I don't care. There's just something about the thought of going to New Jersey that just always sounds terrible to me. So I'm like, why are we continuing to do New Jersey events? Let's pick cooler tracks, cooler people. I don't know.
I went to NJMP twice. We ran not the same track that
Lightning and whatever.
we ran
Thunder. I don't know.
But either way, like that facility was a lot nicer than I was expecting it to be. And the event was a lot fun. It was a really good time. The people were decent. Like, honestly, I can't complain. My least favorite event on the calendar for Grid Life is Autobahn. Like, so Autobahn thinks it's NJMP. Like, they think it's in a decent area and the people are nice and the facility's nice, but it's really just pricks from Chicago, and you're like right next to a gravel pit. I hate Autobahn. I hate the people who run it. They're a bunch of pricks. And I said this before, I just don't go. Like, I boycotted it after getting screamed at for like the 30th time and then them destroying my car, putting it up on a flatbed over some really dumb shit. I want nothing to do with that event, and if I end up going, it's only out of pure necessity for points, and I'm not there because I'm fast there too, and I actively avoid that event, you know, and so. But that event's gonna forever be on the Grid Life calendar, and you guys will go out of your way for that, but you won't come down to Road Atlanta or, you know, make the trek to Laguna or something, because these are these historic bucket list tracks that may never be on the schedule again because they're at a certain point, it won't make financial sense or whatever. You know, you got to go while you can.
So, quick question for you. You already said your favorite time attack track. What has been the track that you were like, you had the best time at and you just love the track itself, not for time attack in particular, but just love the track itself for? Just
love driving it?
Yeah.
I know this is going to sound kind of goofy, but honestly, Gingerman is just, especially in a slow car, is a total riot.
See, Kilgore? See, that's where the button wheel allure comes in.
There's no way you ever get the lap right. And I think button wheel is really like that too, because together the perfect lap is impossible. Okay, it's a very analog track. I'm not going to lie, Mid-Ohio is right up there with that.
As long as you didn't say Road Atlanta, so I can never hear that ever again from anybody besides Jackie Ding.
I hate Road Atlanta. You find the time getting risky. You know, there's so much time in being dangerous at that track. And I hate having to put that amount of risk out there to get it done. You know, and it's to a certain degree, Road America's like that, but Road Atlanta's really like that. Turn 12 and turn 1, there's so much time in. And if you're willing to go for it and you get it right, like we're talking multiple seconds can be there. Okay. But if you get it even a little wrong, you could bin the car. There's no in between. There's not like I threw the lap away. It's you bin the car. Like, it is no joke. I hate Road Atlanta. Road Atlanta is the only track that's ever put me legitimately in tears. Like, I had to call my wife and get her to calm me down because of my old 05 STI coming through turn 12. No matter what I did, it would just try to step out coming through 12. And I had a hairy situation through there. I got her to calm me down. We did some alignment stuff. How I ended up curing it, and you're going to love this, is I'd come over 11 and I'd reach down and I'd hit the DCCD button and throw it in lock all the way through 12 and then unlock it. It was like, oh, dude,
whatever works.
Road Atlanta.
Well, Jager, I will say this. I mean, we just, it had been a while. We just went back there. Maybe I gave it a little bit too hard of a time. I did enjoy it. It's a tough track. It is a good track though. The only thing for me is like, the first half is great. There is a lot of risk, but like from 12 up through like 5, like great portions of the track. 6, 7, the back straight, it's just kind of like, it's just there to link back up to the front straight.
They spent a lot of time planning the front, and then they were like, I'm bored. Let's just get this done.
Yeah.
good way of putting it.
Yeah. But yeah, I know. I mean, it was a good time. It was a good time. So, Dewey, how's 2025 looking? You've had 2 events so far.
I got
CMP.
2 seconds. I'm pissed off because I got to be real. I think we should have won Road Atlanta, but there was just a lot going on. I got to keep telling myself it's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
CMP, you just showed up like on a whim and you got second. I mean, so that's for a throwaway event. That's not terrible.
I guess. I don't know.
What tires do you run, Dewey?
So I had been running the RE71 RS up until recently. Now I'm trying those new Vitour P1s.
Oh, buddy.
They're
Vitour,
interesting,
but I
right
dig
here.
them. They take you got to put heat into them. You really got to put some heat into them. But man, when they come alive, they really come alive. And what I like about them is I can get 2 really hard laps out of them before they get kind of cooked. But if I take a cool down lap, I get another lap just as fast, which I could not do with another tire. You know, the RE71 RS, once it's hot, you park it. You know, it's the same thing with an AO52. You're not getting it cool enough. Okay. But this, you could let it calm down and maybe get another shot at it. Now that I got temps under control in this car, I can do that. You know, years before I couldn't, but now I can.
So you got Midwest Fest and Mid Ohio coming up here in June. Are you attending both of those?
Yes, we're pretty much attending everything except Laguna, unless I have a sponsor who's like desperately wants me out there and they're willing to transport the car. And Chicago, which is Autobahn, because I hate that track and we already went through that. So I'm really hoping we got the car sorted out enough. I really want to come into Midwest Fest and win. Like I know I say I just want to win, but like I really want to win Midwest Fest again this year. And we're gonna try to. We're still in this for the championship. Like that's the idea. But I desperately want to get that sub 130. I want to be the first street mod car to ever run a sub 130 at Gingerman. And
hey, those are really nice. Cool. And like my opinion is always like when I look back at any track, you start looking at those cars that broke those barriers, right?
Yeah.
And those are key cars that you look to key factors, and people literally will start, copycatting and utilizing your ideas and stuff like that. And I don't know. I love the idea of, I love that you want to push that limit and push that ability to get to that point in that car. So
that's why I said we're going to approach it more like a standard time attack, and we're going to try to do it before the drifters destroy it and try to get that like prime session. And we're going to try to put out just a burner as early as we possibly can and maybe set that record, and then we'll dial the car back and then go back into competing. But I think we're going to turn it up for at least 1 lap to try to get everything we can out of it. If it goes ugly, it goes ugly, but at least we tried. Because I'll be damned if somebody other than, if it's a Corvette that runs it, I swear to God, I'm going to lose my shit.
So speaking of which, you have let's talk a little bit about street mod, I guess, how this year's shaping up. You've obviously got Ryan Matthews in the C5,
such a boss,
who's he's got 2 wins so far.
Mm-hmm.
Cal Fortner's been there. He's always a perennial kind of street mod over the last couple of years. Who else has sort of shown up this year that's taken your attention?
So those are the 2 that are really battling up at the top right now. I'm interested to see if Mike Omick does show up. He's made a lot of improvements to the car, a lot of off-season stuff, but I think he's taking his time to bring the car back. He might show up as more of an upset. I don't know if he's going to be a factor in the entire season. I don't know. He could show up to Midwest Fest and be ridiculous. Mike Omick's going to be quick when he finally does show up, though. He's the program behind him, the Turning Concepts guys. They do a lot of hard work, and that car is really well put together. So they have the ability to do some crazy stuff. You always have the Kyle McHugh who can show up at any point and be a serious factor in that, or some other Supra.
I think he just ran like a 206 or something at NCM, which is insane. In his Supra. My gosh.
So Kyle might, if Kyle shows up, we're gonna go to war with Kyle. I'm interested to see where that goes if Kyle shows up. He's kind of mad at Grid Life right now due to some last season stuff. he's kind of the reason you can't do one car, two class anymore. They finally made a very hard rule for it. But
I think a rule like that actually.
Let me say this. And I know it's sort of a little bit nitpicky.
Sure.
And Dewey, I think maybe you've talked about the same thing, but I'm a little interested to see what happens currently with Ryan Matthews.
Yes.
Running 2 cars in the same event. So
but he's got 2 cars.
2 cars.
Okay.
A C5 and a C6 in different classes. But this happened to me a couple times at CMP.
Okay.
I was position 1 in Group B.
Yes.
But I was the second car on track. It's not a huge deal, but
it's a deal.
There are situations where he can gain an advantage by choosing to run in different run groups. It hasn't really happened yet, but I don't know. It's something where I haven't noticed anything, but maybe there's something that's happened that I'm not aware of.
Your track in front of you, that means you don't have to worry about some overpowered Subaru blowing in front of you and oiling the track down.
That's fair.
Okay. This was one of the problems I had with Kyle last year, and I brought it up at Mid-Ohio. I'm like, he's getting free track. Like, he's getting wide open track. We're having to deal with traffic and people breaking down and spacing ourselves and all sorts of shit, and he is paying extra to get free track. Like, this is bullshit. I understand that argument. Now, I'm not on that side of, I'm not having to deal with that because he's running street mod, and his street GT car is getting knocked at the front of B, which is how he's doing that. But with that stated, do I think he's getting an advantage? I absolutely do. And I think if people were to complain about it, there's a valid argument there. I think it's there. And you earn your spot to where you are. And if you're getting extra provisions for that, that's bullshit. Like the tickets will sell. You know what I mean? It isn't like we need him to fill a spot. Like, that's the thing that, like, I don't know. We can make that rule and it wouldn't affect anybody but the person trying to run 2 cars.
Right.
Or get somebody else to run that other car. Like, get a friend, whatever, something. Or enter it as a team and they just qualify it. And then you run both of them in, one's After Dark Speed and one's Ryan Matthews. And then you have your buddy who's pretty quick, just gets it qualified for the podium sprint. And then you run it in podium sprint. It doesn't gain any sort of advantage there.
Right.
Do something like that. But I agree with you. I think questions need to be asked about that. Now, there were situations where James Houghton would be doing things like that. He ran like a Club TR car. In fact, one year he ran a Club TR car, a unlimited car, and a street mod car, all in one event. And he would just bounce between them. But the reality of it is the street mod car, he only ran the unlimited car a couple of times, so it didn't really affect it. And the street mod, I think he skipped sessions to run the street mod cars, so he wasn't getting unfair track time. And the car was a couple of classes or a couple of run groups down, so it worked. If it's going to be something like that, I don't think anybody would complain. But if you're getting moved artificially to a spot you wouldn't normally have earned, I don't think that's okay.
Yeah, I know. I agree. Nobody's really made a stink of it yet, but
These street GT guys are way too nice. Way too nice. Fair. You guys got to start spitting flames. I'm telling you.
That's fair. I know. Yeah. But I mean, there was, right? So it sort of happened, but again, it's sort of one of those things where people don't protest you if you're not winning, right? He ran in Group B in that final session.
Yeah.
Well, that Group B got, I think, 3 or 4 laps before they went yellow. It took a long time to clear the C8 out of the gravel trap, and I think there was maybe one other car, which meant that us in Group A only got 2 laps. Now, of course, like, that stuff just happens. It can happen, but there's a little bit of he gained an advantage. Now, I will also say this. I'm a big proponent of this. I understand that it doesn't always work, especially at an event like Road Atlanta where you have such a time compression. But
sure,
I still think that even though I get that there's a bigger delta, I think that the classes should run together. You should run street mod to get all the street mod cars together, all the street GT cars together, all the track mod cars together, because then you get rid of any potential advantages or disadvantages that someone may have for being in run group B, run group A, run group C.
I agree with that, and I don't. And the reason I say that is because of the way they're running it now, they can run more classes because of the time they have.
Yep.
And then once they split it into podium sprint, which is what actually matters for the, the podium itself and who wins the event, you are with your group.
Yeah, that's fair.
So it kind of eliminates that to a certain degree, but I agree with you on a normal time attack weekend, especially, dude, Road Atlanta was so messed up. It was so the time frame was way too compressed to the track workers really weren't in sync with what Grid Life was trying to do at that point. Like, we really only got 3 sessions. It was all done by 1 o'clock, it was crazy. So so much happened in such a short period of time that there was no ability for anybody to police the problems. And it was made even worse by the original grid order was super screwed up. So a lot of growing pains happened. The event, I think everybody kind of walked away with a little egg on their face in a little way from that. But I 100% agree with you that you should not get open track like that unless you earned it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And it may be one of those things where after this year, just like they've done with kind of the common Q rule, where if you have 2 cars, you're running 2 cars in 2 classes, but you've got times that are going to be in a single run group, you can only choose 1 car, and maybe you have to do like what James did, where he's like, okay, this session I'm going to run one, the next session I'm going to run the other. Although, I mean, now that we're running 7 sessions in a podium sprint weekend, you kind of have enough before the podium sprint, right?
You absolutely do, especially with a street GT car and a street mod car that are so similar.
Yeah.
There's no reason that you're telling me, especially with how consistent somebody is like Ryan, he can't go out there with that street GT car and he can't, in the first 2 sessions, get himself a time that would put him into podium sprint to a point where he doesn't have to worry about it. And then he can just run a street mod car the rest of the weekend or vice versa, whatever he feels he needs to do. You know what I mean? If he feels he needs to work on one or the other, but he's the one who decided to come in 2 cars that are so similar in speed. So
this is not a bitch fest on Ryan Matthews. We both like him. He's super nice. And he's killing it. He is killing it right now. And
Ryan is not breaking a single rule. Nothing he is doing is wrong. This goes back. The thing I complained about with Kyle McHugh last year. Kyle didn't break the rules. He didn't do anything wrong. He did what he was told to do. But. It's up to the organization to recognize that maybe this is an issue and they need to do something about it. And I love Grid Life. And I mean, I love those guys. It's literally a part of my family at this point, but I'll be one of the first ones to bitch at them. I mean, that's the whole reason my other podcast exists. And we've brought this up a couple of times. Maybe we need to bring it up again. Maybe we need to have a street GT roundtable and you got to be on.
Oh, God. You get me, you can get Ito, get some guys on
great.
There. Luke's a street GT guy now.
I'll
tell you what. Now that he's in our Facebook, the Street GT Facebook group, it has gotten 10 times funnier. I'll tell you what.
The coolest man on the planet is Luke McGrew. It's who we all think we're gonna grow up and be.
Oh man.
All right, so let's sort of circle back. You've got Ryan Matthews, you've got Kyle Fortner. Things are looking pretty good. The car looks like it's in pretty good shape. Obviously, the times you were setting,
than it ever has been.
Yeah, the times you were setting at Road Atlanta were very competitive, considering you just put a sequential in the car.
Yeah,
things are looking pretty good for 2025.
Let's the sky's the limit at this point. We're super hopeful with what we were seeing and the data that we got and where we thought we should be. We're really excited about what's coming. The car is going to be really competitive. We're super stoked about it, and honestly, we think we have the ability to maybe even win out from here on. It's not that Ryan's going to make it easy, and Cal now has the ability to add even more horsepower, so that thing's going to be brutal. I have no idea what's going to happen at Road America, but it's going to be fast, and we're going to be able to set some serious times. And we really want to get another championship. We hate it when people are like, the one we won in 23 was kind of a fluke. We really want to win another one. And hope last year made me question everything I've done in my life up until this point. It was bad. We put so much work in to finally see a glimmer of hope at Road America for something completely random fail and just take a dump on the rest of our season. And it was bad, but we built a foundation for this year to do some really awesome shit. So we're really hoping it all comes together. It feels like it is, but I got to keep knocking on wood, because karma is a bitch in this game, and it will come and eat you. The second you get comfortable, you are screwed, or you're going slow.
Yeah, I will agree with that full-heartedly. All right, guys.
Almost at 2 hours. I know.
That means it didn't suck.
Yeah, it didn't suck. Dewey, where can people follow you? How can they keep up with you and see what's going on in the car?
Well, if you want to talk about Subaru stuff, or you're looking to buy Subaru stuff, just call IEG and ask for Dewey, and you'll get me. If you want to follow stuff about the car, IEG's YouTube has some decent videos on it, but mostly my Instagram, which is Dewey, that's DEWEYWRX. So at DeweyWRX is probably the easiest way to get a hold of me, or just hit me up. You see me running around Track Subies or Facebook or whatever. I'm just trying to help out. So if honestly, you can't take a piss next to a Track Subaru anywhere on this continent and me not smell it. So.
And you're hooked up with Subi mods this year. What's going on with that? I've seen a little something, but I'm not quite familiar with what's going on.
Subi mods really wanted to do a very community-oriented, track community-oriented thing. That's picture that we took. The I am second picture is actually right in front of Subimod's new toter. I don't know where the I am second. I think it's some religious thing, but that's me looking grumpy. But Nick at Subimods and I had been talking about wanting to get all the Subarus that run Grid Life, which there's a decent amount of them, all sharing data and going faster together. And the whole concept is get us all in one area. And so that's what we're trying to do. Now they have this this kind of like contingency program that basically, if you run the sticker at the end of the year, every event that you run, plus I think if you like podium or whatever, it puts your name in the hat a bunch of times, and then they're going to give away some money. But there's also some really cool stuff I can't really talk about coming down the line, but let's just say it's going to be really easy if you have a Subaru powered Subaru. And like you need some brake fluid, we're probably just going to have it for you, like cool stuff to help other Subaru owners. And we're trying to kind of have a melding of the minds in one area, and we're going to see where it goes. Cause I think we're going to call this like the prototype season. We got a lot of really cool stuff coming down the pipe, and we have some big sponsors who've came on board who really like what we're trying to do here. So there's going to be a lot more media behind it and stuff like that. So also, if we were talking about other ways to see what we're doing and things like that, definitely check out Subi Mods and their social stuff too, because they've been really hitting the social stuff hard.
Yeah, the video from CMP with you and Bucky Lassick was pretty good.
Yeah, Bucky's good people. So Bucky's been at a bunch of these too. They need to get him in a car that's a little more competitive. We're working on getting that car there. They tried to show up at CMP and put it into street mod. I'm like, that's a bad idea, guys. Let's knock that to street, and we'll get it at least in the same zip code instead of like the same state. And we're getting closer, but that car needs some work too. But Bucky's starting to get the hang of this, and he's a lot of fun to hang out with. It's wild because you're doing time attack with like I played that guy in Tony Hawk. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it's so wild, but he's super chill. He at CMP he mooned me, so I've seen Bucky last. We're in yeah, it's crazy, but it's cool just to be able to walk up and chat with him, you know. And he really is a diehard Subaru fan too. He's got his own GC and stuff. He's done obviously he's done a bunch of rallycross stuff with Vermont Sports Car. Like he's super cool.
Yeah.
I don't think we're too far away from seeing him being seriously competitive.
Awesome. Well, if you guys show up to any Grid Life events, yeah, go find Subi Mods. You'll find Bucky there. You'll find Dewey there in their cars. They're obviously more than happy to talk with you. So
that's why we're here.
Check them out. Yep. And then again, you can follow Dewey on Instagram, Dewey WRX. Check out IAG. Keep up with him with what's going on. Jager, you got anything else?
Oh no, man! I think we talked enough for today. We got 2 hours deep.
Right.
We got
one thing real quick.
Hit it.
Like, Mark, you don't get enough credit for how much you did for the Subaru community and the Subaru Time Attack community back in the day. Yeah, you blew up a shitload of engines, but it was for science, for us, man. You had enough that we could run, bro. Like really, like I still look up to you. Okay, like you are still like one of those dudes on I'm kind of my weird Subaru Time Attack Mount Rushmore. Okay, so like it's awesome being on this, and I'm happy you're still a part of the Time Attack community. But just remember, the Subaru guys still look up to you. You know, come slide by, say hi, give some advice every once in a while.
I appreciate it, man. I mean, again, Subarus took up a huge chunk of my Time Attack life, essentially. Devoted a lot of time and sleepless nights, and that community is absolutely something special. I've yet to find another community that is like that. The Miata community I thought was going to be very much like that, and I'm not saying it's a bad community, but the Subaru community was just so much more welcoming and talkative, and guys were, like you said, sharing information and just trying to help each other out the entire time. Nothing like that.
Feels like with the Subaru community, if one of us wins, we all win.
Yeah.
And it's nothing is better. Nothing is better than having like a podium full of Subarus. I love it to no end. Don't get me wrong. I like to be on the top step, but like the person I want to see right next to me is Mike Omick. Okay.
Yeah.
Like that really warms my heart. I love it to death. I hate it when he's ahead of me, but I really like when he's right there. And it's the community's great. And like I said, you should slide by Track Subies, the Facebook group, every once in a while and just poke your head in there. Like they'd all appreciate it.
I will say this, I'll never forget going to the all Subaru car show, Subi Fest, right? Going to Subi Fest and being able to show off my Subaru and just spending the entire day talking to other Subaru lovers, and just going the distance and, making sure they understand the whys, what, wheres, and, I always thought that was the best experience by far. And just being able to talk to people, just being able to express, why we did things, and they would express to me, their love of their car. And again, it didn't have to be a 800 horsepower track monster. It could be a 280 horsepower grocery getter, and still loved it to death. So
exactly. It's
definitely one of those things,
man. I know this is a Time Attack podcast, but the community itself, the Subaru community itself, is different, and that's why people stay around and fight the fight that we do with a platform that it'd be easier if we got a Corvette, but it's not a Subaru.
How many people said go get a V8 in it, and it just never made any sense to me. So
Well, Jager, I'll tell you what. You've been trying to get me out to Buttonwillow. I'll come out to Buttonwillow for finals. You've got to come out to a Grid Life event. We'll get you there. We'll get you
dude.
Set up at the Subi Mods tent. People can come by. Maybe we'll get like an old picture of your car, and you can be like, "This is what I used to have."
I was this guy. That would be sick, dude.
I'll go to Laguna. You come to Buttonwillow. It'll be a grand old time.
Yeah, that's the most West Coast sounding shit I've ever heard. I'll go like 30 minutes down the road, dude. Fly out to Summer Apex at Road America. I'm dead serious. Yeah. You really should. That event is incredible. Just come hang out. I'd love you to come out to Grid Life Midwest, but hell, I think all the tickets are sold out because that's what we do in these big events. So
that was one of those events I tried to make in my Subaru as well. Never happened.
Dude, you would have been a bullet there.
I'm telling you, my dad used to live like an hour away.
Oh, no
years
shit.
and years and years.
That's crazy.
So all my family's from Michigan, so it always made sense to go there, but just couldn't get the car healthy enough to do it. On that solemn note,
yeah, well, Dewey, we've had such a blast, man. It's been good having you on the podcast. Make sure you follow us on Instagram, Perfect Lap Podcast. We'll be posting up some clips. We try and keep you guys up to date with what's going on in the time attack world, what's going on in the community. You can also check out our website, perfectlappodcast.com. Email the show, maximumattack@perfectlappodcast.com. That's maximumattack@perfectlappodcast.com. We love hearing from you guys. Send us some show ideas. If there's anybody you think we need to have on the show, let us know. It always helps to hear from you guys. As per usual, we're releasing episodes every other Thursday, although recently we've been pumping out a lot of content, so you guys have been getting stuff every week, but you guys can at least expect stuff every other Thursday. You can find us on YouTube if you want to watch us. You can also see us or you can also listen to us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us. We hope you enjoyed the episode. For all you time attackers out there, keep pushing, go fast, take chances. We'll see you in the next one.